Well, good Friday morning. Thank you for joining us today, the morning after Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good one yesterday. And a lot of folks call this Black Friday due to the retail angle of it. But a lot of times in the markets, it used to be on the trading floor, they would be kind of quiet today. A lot of folks may be gone, maybe they're shopping, maybe they're on vacation with the family or something. But now that we have online trading, things could be a little bit different today than what they were maybe 10 or 20 years ago. Here to talk about it, I want to welcome aboard Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions, and we'll discuss what Black Friday means nowadays. So, Brian, you and I both got into the business back in the day when things would be really quiet on the trading floor, but does that mean anything anymore?
Hey, good morning, Marlon. Well, it's a little bit different world, as you mentioned, online shopping on Black Friday, online trading. So we don't have any overnight trade to speak of as far as the grains. Grains and livestock both open cold here at 8:30 Central Time. But there is some electronic trade as far as the dollar, which is a little bit softer this morning, and crude oil, stock market, those markets are trading overnight and trading this morning. The biggest volume will still be in that first hour of trade, and then it slows down after that because it's a 12:05 close. So I don't expect you're going to see any real big volumes as far as activity today. You could see some price moves. Back in the old days when we were talking about trading on Fridays, the old adage was whatever happens on the day before Thanksgiving, you'll see that carry through on the day after Thanksgiving. And that would be a little bearish, as we saw soybeans down sharply on Wednesday. Now, there's a lot of rain overnight in parts of Brazil. Maybe northern Brazil is getting shortchanged compared to what was expected, but there is rain falling in those dry areas. You had export sales out this morning, some private export announcements this morning. So all that goes into giving us probably more of a steady to a little bit softer opening call across the board in the grain markets.
Well, thanks for teeing that one up. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at these weekly export sales numbers that came out this morning. And it didn't seem to be anything that was too great a shakes, other than the corn number was pretty good at 1.43 million tons. Soybeans fell below a million. They were at 970,300 tons this time. It's been a while since they've had a number that low. Soy meal, 203,600 tons. Soy oil, you only had 700 if you combine both marketing years. And the wheat only had 197,300 tons. That wheat number is still just dragging the bottom of the barrel, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, it's really anemic. That's about 6.5 million bushels. So that's actually below the pace that we need to hit to reach the USDA forecast, which is basically a 50-year low for wheat exports. So wheat is going to continue to struggle, I'm afraid, and it could be kind of an anchor on corn and soybeans. There's some moisture moving in through the winter wheat plains areas this weekend, so that will pressure Kansas City wheat, I believe. The soybean number was disappointing as well as far as export sales, but China is just, once again, a relentless buyer of U.S. soybeans. They showed up for about 27 million bushels of the 36 that were sold last week. Corn number was, again, it was good, but it was below last week's numbers. And Mexico, once again, a big buyer of U.S. corn last week. Almost half of the total sales were to Mexico.
Now, we had numbers for grain sorghum and cotton and rice as well. Let's take a look at what those were. Grain sorghum, 139,800 tons. You had upland cotton at 327,900 running bales, and the rice at 79,800 tons. Now, for the cherry on top, as I like to say, on the overnight sales, we had some numbers there. Now, here it was both soybeans, two events of them. We had one at 129,000 tons of soybeans that were sold to China. And my bad, I happened to copy that on the second line, but it was 323,400 tons of soybeans to unknown destinations. But Brian, you and I both know a lot of times it ends up being China anyway. I should have just put an asterisk on that, I guess. What do you think?
Likely. Yeah, most likely. The odds are pretty high that will end up being China. You can look at the export numbers this morning, and you can see that a big portion of what China bought was switched from that unknown destination category back to China. So it's very high odds that these sales that were reported this morning will end up being China.
So they do have that appearance of stocking their shelves, don't they? I mean, they're really stocking up here lately.
Yeah, as we've talked before, these are all hedges against South American production, and especially what's happening in Mato Grosso. If they do have some bad yields, poor conditions there, and prices move sharply higher, these are hedges that they have purchased already, and they can lock in these prices. If, in fact, we have a monster crop out of Argentina and Brazil, prices retreat sharply. You can bet these sales will be canceled. They will be buying from South America at much cheaper price levels.
Oh boy, thanks for planning that idea. Okay, we'll come back in a moment. We'll take a look at some numbers that we had for beef and pork sales too. We'll have that when we come back. We are back in our discussion with Brian Hoops, the president of Midwest Market Solutions. All right, so in case you missed it earlier, if you just tuned in, there were no markets trading on Thursday, of course, because it was Thanksgiving. But that also means the weekly government reports that normally would come out on Thursday, such as the weekly export sales numbers, they are delayed by a day, so they came out this morning. Now, we went through the grain numbers a little bit ago. Other than corn, they were kind of disappointing. Now let's look at the beef and pork numbers and see what we had this past week. Drum roll, please. On the beef, we had a total, counting this year and next year, 14,400 tons. And on the pork side, 26,900 tons. Brian, we're talking with Brian Hoops here, as I look into the narration of the numbers, I see where China was an active buyer on both sides there.
Yeah, they were decent buyers. Of course, not as strong as what they had been previously. Mexico kind of backed away from buying beef as well. And that's why you see the beef number down below what it has been over the last 4 weeks. Now, the pork number, still a decent number, although it is down substantially from what we've seen last week. But China, Mexico, once again, both of those countries showing up as buyers. It's important that they continue to be buyers for our beef and for our pork sales. And when they don't buy as aggressively, that's when you see these numbers turn a little softer like they did. We also had cold storage report on Wednesday afternoon that the market has not had a chance to react to. And for as far as pork numbers go, we saw a big drawdown in stocks. That should be a little supportive to those futures. But the beef stocks were above last month for the second consecutive month. But year over year, we're down for the 9th consecutive month, and one of the tightest stocks since about 2014. So beef stocks are really in tight supply. And I think packers, if they can buy cattle this week at cheaper money, which they've started to, we're going to see that trend continue, and they're going to try and fill up those coolers through the winter months.
We had very limited trade out in the country this week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very limited. A little bit of trade at 177 in Kansas. That's going to be down about $1 from a week ago. I don't know that we really traded anything on a dress basis. There was a lot of bids at $2 softer. So far, I think they've been passed, but we may pick up some sales that were maybe even done yesterday as the day goes on. But it looks like trade on a dress basis probably going to be in that $2 lower range and $1 weaker on a live basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, for all the information, and good luck riding through this weekend, fighting with all the shoppers if you're going to be doing that. Brian Hoops, and he is with Midwest Market Solutions. He's in Springfield, Missouri.